Hello and welcome to the Montel Weekly Podcast. Normally we bring you energy matters in an informal setting, but today we're in this amazing control room of the old Kraftwerk Berlin. So I'm in Berlin, as we say, as at the Event Horizon conference, and today I'm joined by three very distinguished guests, CEOs and leading energy experts in Europe. Anna Trbovich, COO of Grid Singularity, welcome.
Thank you.
You're also Vice Chair of Energy Web Foundation's Foundation Council.
Yes, and very proud that we went live yesterday.
Brilliant. And Jojo Hubbard, you're the COO of Electron. Welcome to you.
Thanks for having me.
So Electron, that's a London-based company, sort of tech-based, tech energy, in the tech energy space.
Yeah, we're trying to repopularize the term Entech so that energy companies don't have to call themselves fintech companies, because it's such a profoundly important, exciting space right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And McKavanagh, welcome to you. You're CEO of You're CEO of Verv. So you look at more, not so much, I mean, I think, Jojo, you're looking at more at the balancing side of stuff, but you're looking more at the household level, is that right,
it's like
Maria?
domestic level, so it's kind of the other end of the spectrum, I suppose. So we've got it all between us.
Perfect. So from the macro level to the micro, yeah, wonderful. Anna, you just mentioned that you launched the Energy Web chain. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? Why is it important and what does it mean for the energy sector?
For several reasons. First of all, because we created an ecosystem of global corporates and startups who are working together on a single standardized platform where they're launching applications in the Entech. And we are the first platform that is run by real companies, corporates, and startups. So it is also used for blockchain. It's the first enterprise level, truly decentralized blockchain. It is also more efficient than other platforms that are there in the market right now, and therefore allows for a range of applications. And at Event Horizon, our partners, members of the ecosystem, have shown applications that are very real, including those that are operated by Electron and Verv, but also Singapore Power, Engie, Elia, as well as American and other innovators globally.
So that's like the corporates, the sort of established energy companies, as well as sort of startups like Electron and Verv and others. Yeah. Jojo, Electron used blockchain to sort of help balance the grid, sort of bring in decentralized and distributed energy, if I understand it correctly. But I see you recently launched a sort of grid asset register. Could you tell us a little bit about that? What is it and why is that important?
So the next phase of the energy transition is all about making more efficient use of existing assets, whether they're grid assets like transformers or cables or generation assets or storage assets, but the boundaries moved, right? The boundary used to be the meter level, and the boundaries moved behind the meter. There's all sorts of exciting things going on there too.
So when you say behind the meter, I mean, for those out there who maybe aren't unfamiliar with those kind of terms, what do you mean?
Electric vehicles, domestic batteries, electric heating systems, all of those sorts of things are kind of...
Fridges? Or...
Fridges is always used as an example,
But
as to whether you coordinate through a domestic, heater or fridge, there's going to be so many different aggregation models of bringing lots of different types of assets into the market. Verv being another, kind of really compelling one of those. Essentially, one of the key challenges is no one party has a view of what and where all the capabilities in the system are anymore. So you've got an awful lot of parties who are holding different types of data, whether it's static data, like here are the attributes of those assets, here's where they are, or operating data, like here are the meter readings, or relational data, like these are the things these assets are qualified or allowed to do. So to try and pull those together and get kind of whole system value, you need a kind of whole system solution. So you have two options, a kind of centralized whole system solution where you create a new central database and coordinate it that way, or a decentralized one. We believe the absolute best way to coordinate this new system is to bring together lots of different data sets and coordinate them through a kind of portal, essentially a thin integration layer, rather than mandating for a new big central data system. And even if you do that, you're going to get some of the column headings wrong, or you're going to miss some of the important data, and you're going to end up having multiple of those data sets. So Record DER is the big project we're running in the UK with National Grid, UK Power Networks and Scottish Power Energy Networks. And it's essentially to give a single name for a single asset. maybe a meter ID or something more. And then on blockchain, we sort of run the KYC. So how do you prove that you have the right to control that asset and enter into markets? We have references to lots of off-blockchain data sets. Then we have essentially the market protocols, which are separate. So a market can be a balancing market, and as an example of that we're doing up in Scotland. It can be a data market, so an example of that, like National Grid paying for more information or more resolution as to what is in the lower asset. But the point is, anyone can build these data or trading markets on a system of coordinated asset identities. So that's
where the blockchain comes in to aid that.
And it's all linked.
Yeah. It's all linked through that. So Maria, you at Verv, you're using blockchain to help households and people to look at their energy use, how they can perhaps lower their carbon footprint. I saw you recently, you have an energy trading platform. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So that's the part that we use the blockchain for. So we started out, we're a data company, so and Entech. So we have an IoT device that samples current and voltage coming into domestic properties super quick, so much faster than smart meters, so up to 1 million times a second versus like once every 6 to 10 seconds. And with that volume of data, we can apply AI to it to gain greater insight into the home. So where a smart meter shows you your total consumption, we say it's the washing machine that is costing this much, and show people that information in real time. So the idea of democratizing energy data has been there from the beginning, because people didn't understand how to reduce their bills because they don't have access to the information. They don't know if their appliances are efficient or inefficient. So that's where we began, and then it was through a project also with UKPN, which is one of the network operators back in the UK. Through a project with them, we were monitoring households that had solar and battery storage, and obviously the means electricity, and we could see that they were generating so much more energy than they needed. And that's when we're like, hang on a second, like surely we could redistribute this energy to a neighbour that doesn't have some form of solar. And we even had one person say to us, I'm retired, I've paid for my solar assets, they're all paid off now, like there's a family next door that I can see are really struggling, and I would love to just give them my excess solar. So you wouldn't even necessarily have to pay for it. Maybe you would donate it to a school, I don't know. So then that's where our projects came in, and so we were like, we need to trade this energy in some way, we need to record the transactions, but our goal here is to get energy bills as low as possible and hopefully down to zero. So the blockchain is the perfect solution for that right now. It's the best technical solution right now to trade something in a way that doesn't need a middleman that's going to take their cut on every transaction. So that's how it came about.
So the middleman being who then?
Maybe
the
an energy company,
the utility. So it's massive disruption to the current setup, the retail setup.
We actually would argue that disruption already happened with decentralized assets, with consumers being aware that they have right to know and that they have right to choose. So we see blockchain as a solution, actually, not the disruptor.
Yeah, okay. No, fair enough. Do you think, what's the consumer engagement with this? Is there willingness to engage with this?
Obviously we've had very early adopters from the beginning. We've been getting feedback on it. I think what we have seen, there's a transition happening in technology right now, whereas when startups used to be measured on things like monthly active users, daily active users, time spent in the app. And we actually don't necessarily want people spending hours in our app looking at how much their kettle costs. And I think technology is now transitioning from this kind of screaming toddler trying to get your attention all the time, like social media, to an obedient assistant. And that's what we want to be. So we want to have the technology that enables people to forget about it, to know that they are always paying the cheapest price for their energy. So we do switching as well. And know that they're always getting the cheapest amount, and obviously trying to reduce carbon also. So so I think that people are getting wise to it, but it needs to be something that you kind of install and then are like, I know that's taken care of, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Yeah,
absolutely. I sense there's a lot of fantastic ideas out here, and the companies involved in this sector, you've got some good, very good use cases. What does it take then to bring this to the next level? Is there anything sort of holding back development in this sector, Anna?
Actually, some use cases are at the next level, if you call the market the next level.
Sure. For example, which ones?
For example, the first one that was really out is the renewable energy certificates, which is a perfect use case of simplifying the procedure, making it more efficient, making it more transparent, definitely more authentic, and Also, what is really important, really enlarging the market in a sense that you no longer have to be a big hydro plant. You can now be a home with a solar panel and participate in this market. So this is happening. Engie in France and Singapore Power and now PTT in Thailand have marketplaces. Singapore Power announced that now they have a partnership with IREX, the international REC certification body. So that means that that app is global and that it's not tied to that one market, which is another feature of blockchain. And then there are apps in EV charging, like the Share and Charge app, right, which has been on the market for a while now. And well, a while being a few months, which in blockchain years is long. Elia is looking at an application in grid balancing. Studying and other companies are exploring how to engage the community, how to engage distributed resources in a way that is more efficient. There are apps like one that we built as Grid Singularity called the D3A, which allows one to simulate, configure a market, optimize the market, and then in the next stage, roll that out as a software with own bidding strategies. Where, as you see, with blockchain, it's all a big puzzle. And we're all working together as part of this puzzle. What Jojo and Electron is doing is a protocol that is useful for asset registry that could then be part of this digital grid. And then the device of Verv would be the one that's participating with its own trading strategies on this simulated digital grid, transactive grid. So that is the beauty of blockchain, and that's why we have an ecosystem where we all work together. It is a peculiar case of cooperation and collaboration on the market.
And if I go back to the guarantees of origin or the certificates of origin, how is that developing in Europe? I mean, you mentioned some kind of hindrances yesterday in the conference. Could you go into any more details there?
So whenever we do a survey, regulation comes as the first challenge, I will call it. And it's a challenge in that if you have a registry of guarantees of origin in a country in Europe or another name that they're called in another country which is highly regulated, then they say this is how they should be registered. And you need someone to check if you actually have an asset, you need to be an asset of that size and so forth. So it's a procedure that needs to be changed so that you can say, oh, you can also register a certificate using this blockchain app. And there it's a matter of time for registries in Europe to recognize that it's a better way to do business. But it does require that they change a relatively small piece of legislation, but still a piece of legislation. And it's also a cultural, behavioral change in that aspect. The more of a challenge that we see is in peer-to-peer. Where for good reason it is highly regulated who can be an energy trader, right? Which in your example of a fridge or a dishwasher or your music, whatever you're using as a device, doesn't satisfy the rules to become an energy trader. And there will be a longer road to convince, right? And today we had the example of SoulShare, which claims rightly to be the first peer-to-peer grid in Bangladesh. So it's in Bangladesh, it's not in Europe because it's not regulated
in the same way
in Bangladesh. So it is possible that the deployment will be first in countries where this is not regulated and would benefit in a sense the economic development and the help them have this tech leap, right? And then teach us how to do it in Europe, because in Europe we just have a few test beds. The first one starting in UK, and I know Electron has been working with them. We worked with one in Austria. The issue there is how fast will one go from a regulatory sandbox to mainstreaming.
When you say sandbox, what could you say that? What do you mean?
Well, it means that that's an area that is accepted to the general law, which forbids it.
Okay.
Yes.
So, sorry, Jojo.
It's a safe play area.
Safe play. Okay, fair enough. With the
Like a
regulator.
sandbox.
Like a sandbox.
Yeah, fair enough.
May I answer your question as to why aren't these things happening already at bigger scale? Because it's not a tech problem. It's not a blockchain problem, in my view now.
So is the other markets ready, or is there something about the market structure?
Exactly. So if I may, as an analogy, imagine like you're trying to kind of put the football in the goal, and right now very few people are allowed on the football pitch, and the goal is very, very small. So we need to allow more people on the pitch. So we do that through things like open data, And there's some fantastic open data initiatives, like the Open Data Task Force going on the regulatory side. But again, blockchain is a fantastic technology for allowing people to take control and allow access to their own data. And there are other things on allowing more people on play, like regulators, like roles, like cooperation, another thing Energy Web Foundation kind of really pushes. So more people need to be on this football pitch. But again, we really need to make this goal bigger. And we heard on the panel, I said it today, someone goes, oh, the flexibility market is very small. That's not right. Like, the flexibility market isn't a market. There's a whole series of attributes that the grid needs now. Some are physical, like we need you to do something in this location, we need inertia, and some are preferential or financial, like we want it to be green, we want it to be these. And probably shouldn't even call green preferential anymore, because we actually do really need as a society it to be greener. So that's largely a market design thing. Like we need to allow price signals, we need to allow value to be stacked, we need to do all sorts of things to make that goal bigger. So amazing innovators and innovative companies can go and engage consumers better to sort of come into this market.
So what needs to happen? How can we make that goal bigger and the pitch bigger?
So open data and things like sandboxes allow more people onto the pitch. And to make the goal bigger, it's things like demanding that flexibility markets are stackable, allowing sharper price signals between like energy's free now and energy's really expensive now. And I spoke to the regulator the other day and they were like, oh, people don't like price signals. It feels like going backwards in time and rationing and no one wants to go back to the wall. I said, well, let's call it something different because people do want free energy.
Absolutely.
Stop subsidizing the polluters.
And it's so important. And that's a regulation in market
and
design
enable
as well.
these more flexible pieces of generation and demand side to come in. Absolutely. Maria, how do you engage with a regulator? I mean, what's your experience here?
So again, through a sandbox. So our peer-to-peer trials that we have done in Hackney in London have been within an Ofgem. So Ofgem's our UK regulator, has been within a sandbox. And I have to say, they have been incredible in terms of their innovation link and getting us to that point. But I completely take Anna's point of how do we go from there to this being mainstream and there's, the regulation has changed. The problem with all types of regulation is that the rules are made to protect the customers from the giants, and the innovators have to follow the same rules, and that's obviously how it has to be. But it does make innovation more difficult. But I think the bright side of this is that the tech's there and it's done and it's proved, which is really awesome. And I think living in a world where we can trial and create things so quickly now and in such a collaborative global way is really amazing. And I think being able to particularly being affiliated with you guys, we can see what the regulations like in different countries and you can lobby in a different way. But I find in the UK the regulator to be really open to hearing everything.
Okay, yeah.
Shout out to Ofgem.
They are.
Okay. But it's not like that in every country, because I was going to ask, have you kind of plans to roll out what you're doing in the UK to other markets? I mean, in Europe, or is that, and what are the barriers to doing that?
Yeah, I mean, we have in Ireland as well. Ireland, I guess the energy market was a monopoly until not that long ago, which makes it easier because there's fewer players, so you can get answers quicker, I suppose. And then we've done, we're looking at kind of Middle East and Thailand as well. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's I guess Australia probably is a bit less heavily regulated.
And lots of things happening there on the renewables and storage side as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different experience in different countries, and it's about trying to place your bets on where's going to be the first place to take this on. It may not be the UK. We'll see.
Well, I don't know. I like you, huge fan to Ofgem and really grateful for them for actually leading conversations about innovations and sandboxes. But if you look at, and I'm going to miss some markets out here, but if you look at the markets who are really advanced in renewables, you've got Germany, you've got UK, you've got Australia, you've got California, you've got Japan and various markets like this.
The Nordics as well, a different kind of.
And the Nordics as well. But then if you look at the markets where people are really, really committed to markets and you've got really innovative regulation, that does start sending you to Australia and the UK quite frequently again and again. And there are no coincidence those are markets where the regulators are at the table involved in all of these conversations with the tech companies.
Because what are you hearing, Anna, in terms of the regulation? Is there a huge variance here? Some are very open to this, some are at the table, some are very shut firmly behind some doors. And
I see a greater push recently that there is less climate change denial and a generally stronger push from the citizens and several leading governments to deal with it now rather than delay to the next political mandate. And I believe that will be part of the push that will also help regulators allow for blockchain solutions. Because blockchain solutions facilitate the use of renewables to the hopefully 100%.
There's a lot of talk here about private and public blockchains. Where do you stand on this, Anna? I can see a lot of projects that have gone on with the blockchain have been on private ones, which maybe goes against the ethos of the blockchain itself. I mean, what?
Well, the single most important feature of blockchain is that it enables trust. If you're private and centralized, in my opinion, it is not the blockchain in the authentic meaning of the word or the intention of the technology. So the structure that the Energy Web Foundation has developed is one of a public blockchain, but with known permissioned validators that give a sense of security to people using it, in that those are companies with a serious reputation that they're staking because they want a platform that is truly global, truly decentralized. Over time, the number of those corporates and startups will grow. They're already geographically very diverse. And in that sense, it's a truly decentralized blockchain owned by no one, controlled by no one except the community, which will discuss different technical upgrades and vote on those technical upgrades, whereas the applications that are run on it are those that need to account for any regulatory compliance that they may need to have, depending on what it is. Obviously, if they are a back-end billing app, they don't, or may have some of that, but peer-to-peer may be one that is tied to a certain jurisdiction. And as we move to scale and so-called parachains, which are enabled by projects like Polkadot, what that would imply is that, for example, you may have an app that runs on one chain that is for a certain jurisdiction and another for another jurisdiction, and then they all meet on this main blockchain that provides the security and the standard platform specifications for everybody to use and take advantage of.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, it seems like we're only just at the beginning, and in fact, we have to end here. I think we've just scratched the surface. So thanks again for joining us. It's been a privilege to have you here, and good luck with all the projects and yeah. In the future.
Thanks for having us.
For the latest news from the energy markets, go to our Twitter @Montel News and follow us also on our website @Montel News. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on Spotify and also on iTunes. This is all for today's episode. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.